This podcast is part of E2C Network, where we share the whole Auburn experience.
David Housel described it best. We are living the whole of the Auburn experience. You can quantify it, you can qualify it through a variety of methods, times, people, places, things, experiences. But at its heart and at its core, it is all about Auburn sports, Auburn culture, and of course, the Auburn family. Since this experience is about the Auburn family, let's get a few of those members in here. I'm your host, Kyle Loomis. Alongside me, as always, the best co-host in the land, Mr. Austin Scott. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you, Kyle. War Eagle to you, War Eagle to our viewers and listeners. Hope you've had a great week, friend.
I have had an excellent week. I am realizing very quickly that summer is almost done, even though it doesn't feel like it right now.
No, definitely doesn't feel like it, but you're right. I just told you pre-show, my day job is at a school, and we start back this week. And so it is time. But
it is that time.
That can mean good things too, and we'll get into it. We're getting very close.
We got some exciting things this week, folks. I feel like we say that every week. See,
right.
That's the whole. Let me have a soapbox moment for a second.
Oh, we're starting early.
No, this is a good soapbox. This is why we call this the Auburn experience, because and this is no shots at any other content or podcasts out there, but these are conversations that even we have had here at E2C Network. What do you talk about when football season's not there? But when you go outside that little box, there's so much that you can discuss in the Auburn experience, which has been very well displayed in the Olympics, things like that, all throughout this summer, all throughout this year. So speaking of which, that can kick us off with Auburn potpourri. Let's still talk about Olympics because it's still going on at this moment. Auburn is making some great moments from some very prominent names, one of those being our lovely Suni Lee, and has just appeared just as glorious on the grand stage as we saw her for the very first time, even before she got here at Auburn to compete, dominate, drop perfect tens on Alabama in Tuscaloosa. I saw that clip, by the way, this week, and I was just reminded like how awesome, because the Bama fans that are big gymnastics fans, they can't deny the greatness that is Suni Lee, and so they just have to sit there and be like, I can't hate her for this because she's an Olympian, and
that's
I gotta support America, all that. All right, sorry, enough gushing from me about Suni Lee, but let's do at least talk about that a little bit. Great beginning, middle. We're kind of on the tail end of the Olympics here now. She has gotten a gold with the team in the I guess you'd call it the all-around team events.
Team event.
Team events. A bronze in the individual all-around, and also, as of today, a bronze in the uneven bars. And I believe she still has one more event to go. I could be wrong.
She does. I want to say it's floor, or no, it might be balance beam. That would make sense with her. I think it's balance beam. So she's got a chance for one more. But yeah, it's really cool to see. We all were big fans of Suni in 2021, right? When she was coming to Auburn, but she was not in Auburn yet, and really had made herself known among the Auburn community in person. Now she's one of us, right? One of us. And so it's awesome to see kind of from the Auburn experience part of it, see them rally around her. We have all seen the clip. I had it up at work during the team event and heard it live when she said, or I guess the individual all around, when we heard the War Eagle from the crowd, and I like froze and I looked over at my screen. I was like, I backed it up, and sure enough, I mean, a War Eagle moment on international TV for Suni Lee. It doesn't get any better. It was pretty awesome.
It doesn't get any better in watching her have such great success as a team part of the team, but also individually. But it doesn't even better just watching the Auburn experience come to life, as you said, on the international stage and at the Olympics. So we're super proud of her and how she continues to represent herself, our country, but of course, us within the Auburn family.
That's right.
Let's talk about individuals that we have had the opportunity to start adding to the family in the commitment process. You and I spent a lot of time last week discussing Big Cat Weekend and the amazingness that it was. But even you and I underestimated maybe how much longer the effects of Big Cat Weekend, Auburn football's big recruiting event during the summer, was going to pay off even down the line. Austin, and unless we're misremembering this, we had talked about 6 individuals that had committed to the Tigers on that show. Go back and check that out if you haven't. Some good analysis there from my good friend here too. I have to say this: 3 more commitments from Big Cat Weekend, folks. Think about that. That's incredible that we're here sitting there discussing today. Anquan Fagans was the first one, I believe, or Derek Smith maybe was the first one.
Derek Smith, right.
Then Anquan Fagans, and then Jared Smith. So not only are we just adding Smiths left and right, we just keep adding people left and right. Austin, are you shocked? Were you expecting this?
Some of both. I think that there was a lot of the tea leaves, if you get into that, was looking toward another big week continuing for Auburn. Derek Smith, obviously the flip we kind of alluded to last week in our show that sounded like it was coming. Fagans on Monday night and Jared Smith Saturday. The train just keeps rolling, and I think it's pretty cool to see the effects of Big Cat Week and that Auburn continues to be the national talk in recruiting, and things look like they're moving in the right direction. So I think, are we done yet? That's the question we keep asking. I don't think so. I think you're going to see this momentum continue. And the hope for Hugh Freeze and the staff is that you get a good season, and the season only builds on that momentum, and you just keep playing that game of how far can you take it.
Yeah, you just see how far it can go at this point, because I don't believe we're done yet. And there is one other question, Austin, that I have to ask in relation to this. Were you aware that in-state recruiting doesn't matter as much anymore? Did you hear something about that? Like,
I have no comments on this matter at all whatsoever. It's anyone who apparently I have comments. Anyone who tells you that in-state recruiting doesn't matter is trying to cope and is absolutely denying themselves of what is happening. I'm sorry, but that's the biggest load of crap I've heard this week, and there's a lot of load of crap that goes around here.
It is 2 things, possibly. It is either trying to cope, most likely, or it is trying to get clicks because they knew the reaction that we are clearly giving them at this
true.
point.
True.
So I will say this, that if you're saying in-state recruiting doesn't matter as much anymore,
here's my thing though, Kyle. Like, it outside, and yes, like you said, which is so apparent, we're feeding into this. In-state recruiting, sure, if you want to say it doesn't matter because we're getting more walk-ons on the in-state than you are. These are top 100 recruit kids. Sure. Like, these are 4 and 5 stars. If you don't want those and those don't matter, then send them to the Plains. We're lucky to have them. I'm just saying, and this is the pot calling the kettle black, but I remember a lot of that same conversation happening a few years ago when Auburn was having some struggles with coaches who could relate to kids in state. So we'll see how that we know how that turned out for us. We'll see how it turns out over there.
No names being discussed here.
None.
That's plenty of names coming to be part of the Auburn family as part of this commitment process for 2025 and more, all in that Big Cat Weekend. We talked about gymnastics. We talked about football. Let's talk about some basketball, because why not, right? We got to talk about basketball because we are getting some amazing, and I do mean amazing schedule news as it comes to Auburn basketball in this offseason. We have talked about Auburn Duke. We have talked about Auburn in the Maui Invitational. We've talked about Auburn Purdue. Austin, we are now anticipating this year and another 2-game series with the Houston Cougars, one of the, at least in the modern time, what we're talking about now, perennial, I guess I could say, powers in college basketball. They're pretty regularly in the Elite Eight, making it to the Final Four sometimes. A very good program. They've beaten us recently, and we were close to beating them as well in that game. But Auburn has scheduled a 2-game series going to play in Houston, and they'll come back the next year, that being 2020. I guess technically 5 is when they would return for that game in Birmingham coming up. So, did you think we were done with big big non-conference game news?
Well, look. Bruce Pearl is going to make sure this team is tested and ready before SEC play, because it's going to be brutal. And I know, we will get into it closer. Everybody's really excited about these right now, but let's remember that this is going to be a learning curve and learn by trial by fire. So it'll be a lot of fun. The only issue I have with this, another thing too, that's on a football bye weekend, which is good. Hopefully that'll mean there's a heavy Auburn contingent already in Texas. Hopefully we get some more to travel out there. I'm sure Kyle will be paying for both of us to go out there.
Of course.
So I'm looking forward to that.
Already in the budget. That doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Okay.
The thing I have with it is I hate that we're going to play at Houston. It's not their arena. It's the NBA arena. So maybe Jabari Smith will be on our side. And then we turn around next year and they'll go to Birmingham. And I wish we could have somehow got that game at home. But I understand it.
It's a legitimate gripe. I get it. But I think what Bruce understands, and I think this is a conscious thing on his part, and whoever else is, Mike Burgermaster, whoever's handling the schedule decision, they know the response that we are getting from going to Birmingham, especially for these bigger games. And let's be honest, the BJCC is a little bit bigger from what I understand. Yeah, it definitely is. So we're anticipating some big crowds. And Auburn Arena, as much as we are just dominant in there, you got to have room to fit these people.
Neville Arena.
Money at Neville. What did I am so sorry to the Nevilles.
We're past the statute of limitations on that one.
That's a demerit against me. Wow. You're better than that, Kyle. Come on. You're better than that. But anyway, before I mess it up again, Auburn and Houston, 2-game series coming up over the next couple of years for
Should be
basketball.
Cool.
Should be cool. Super excited for that. If you're a college basketball fan, you should be. As a final note, folks, school's almost here. Ugh. The move-in week has arrived for a lot of Auburn students. So it's kind of our annual tradition to say welcome. And I hope for those freshmen that are moving in that you take hold of every single moment that you are about to embark on as being an Auburn student, because so many that are part of the Auburn family weren't blessed with that opportunity. But those of us that have been, we can tell you how special it is. It was never easy. We had a lot of studying to do. It's probably more we should have done. Some of us had to work through college, but enjoy every moment. Soak it in. The Auburn experience is like no other, and especially when you get to experience as a student. I know you concur with this. It's pretty special.
Oh, yeah. I moved in 10 years ago. This is coming up, so sometime in the next week or two. And I can't believe it was that long ago. So it's I'm excited. It's always fun. I've talked about it before. My wife and I actually enjoy when there's students here. We don't hate it when they're not here. It's rather pleasant, but we always enjoy it when they're back. Just they end up, church is a little more full. We get to meet a lot of them and get to see them around town, and it's special. It's one of the reasons we love being in Auburn. So we're excited to have them back and excited for a whole bunch more people's Auburn experiences to start. And
when that time comes around for the students to start moving in, that means class is about to begin. But what that also means, Austin,
it's true,
is that football practice has already started. So let's talk about football practice. I know that we have been waiting for SEC Media Days to come. That has gone now. We made it through that couple week stretch where there was not as much to talk about. We're all just waiting for practice to start. We are here, folks. We have pads on. We have helmets on. I say we like you and I are actually wearing the pads.
We definitely do not.
Quick aside, did you play football? Did you play a little ball?
Middle school, 1 year.
What'd you play?
Receiver.
I kind of pegged you for that. Either that or
Will Hastings type.
Oh, Will Hastings.
Didn't like getting hit. No, just because he's small and white, not any talent.
I was thinking speedy, elusive.
Yeah. Not very big.
When you realize he's run past you and he's wide open with Jarrett Stidham throwing to him, that's a deadly weapon.
Yeah, didn't happen very often. 1 year, and I was like, this isn't very fun. My head hurts.
Well, our heads don't have to hurt because we just get to watch them bang the helmets together and have hopefully a good time out there with the start of practice. We are underway. It looks like for the most part, they are practicing most days of the week, aside from I think Sunday they may have been off or something like that. But there's basically practices happening every day, probably up until not only the fan day event, which we'll talk about on the back end here, but when classes actually start in a week and a half's time. So this is the time for them to start grinding and stuff like that. So let me give you the floor first, Austin. What were you able to see? What were you able to glean? What do you take away from this first week of practices?
Yeah, I think that I haven't seen a whole lot, to be honest with you. I've seen a little bit. I listened to the main press conference pre the first practice from Coach Freeze. I think he expects a lot. He expects a lot in his second year from the team as a whole. He talked about being crisp. He wants things to flow and go, as well as he expects from the jump. And I think I recognized that from hearing him talk about Peyton Thorne and talk about how they're more in sync. It's year 2, in case you wasn't sure, Kyle. He's year 2 of a transfer quarterback.
Look it up,
and
folks.
so
Year 2.
I'm just saying. And so I think that's not coach speak, but it's pretty understandable to expect that. And then, we posted a TikTok of it on our E2C accounts. I heard all about the receiver class, and rightfully so, with the pictures and clips coming out. There's a lot of expected of that group. There's a lot expected of some of them individually more than others, but there's a lot expected of that group. And so far, it sounds like they're doing pretty well. It's a long way to go. It's a long way to get there when we got in-season games, but I think that's everything you could want out of at least what we're hearing first and foremost.
I want to get to more, not necessarily substantive stuff, but we got to address the hype things and probably what is the biggest story and biggest not question mark, but excitement piece for Auburn fans. That's the wide receiver room, namely Cam Coleman. And the Auburn creative team knew exactly what they were doing.
Oh,
They released the one-handed catch photo online. I think it was last night, actually, is when they posted, maybe 2 nights ago, something like that.
Very recent. Yeah.
They know what they're doing. And they also, the coaches that probably know what they have. So as we made the little funny joke in our TikTok or reel, whichever you watched it on, I have been one that's been waving the caution flag of let's not put the too much pressure on this kid and the expectations. Let's not Aiden Holloway this kid, all right, before he gets a chance to show us what he can do.
Yep.
But he's not helping this situation, nor is the Auburn creative team helping this situation.
We have flown past the third base coach holding up the stop sign for us. We are full on sprinting. I mean, it's inevitable. And I think if he had been here all summer, I think you'd be saying the same about Perry Thompson. I'm gonna be honest with you. That the pictures already of him look huge. Coach Freeze said he looks like what an SEC receiver should be.
Right.
And so there's a lot of hype being put on these kids, and it's going to be really fun to see how they handle it. Hopefully it's going to be meeting those expectations and then some.
Yeah, I think obviously a lot of those expectations are put on by the fans, on themselves too. And I think the coaches have clearly, Coach Hugh Freeze says he expects a lot of these guys calling. Some of them already look like they're ready to have significant playing time, if not start. But the hype train continues to build, and we just started practices out there. One of the things that I found is not so much interesting, but just of note, was during the press conference this week. Coach Hugh Freeze talked about how different year 1 to 2 has already felt. And he's been very quick whenever these kind of conversations came up. And he said this week during the press conference too, let's not focus so much on last year and what didn't work. Let's talk about what we're doing now and what we're moving forward. And has said, whatever didn't work ultimately falls on me. So this should not be perceived as an opportunity for people to place blame, things like that. But you're hearing things like about familiarity, comfort, ease. I think maybe is used at some point in terms of just, it feels different around the office, is what was basically said by Hugh Freeze during the press conference. And some of that he alluded to is his familiarity with people like Derek Nix now, having him as the offensive coordinator. Some of these people have been together as a unit for more than a year now. So you got to be encouraged that not just the coaches, but the players are feeling this too. And it's starting to kind of really, I think, show out in the way, we'll call it vibes around the team and the way the practice started, at least this week, I think. Yeah,
I think you're right. And I think that, with anything, the longer you're in it, the more comfortable you become. I think that's definitely the case and kind of what he means here. But I think you're right with Derek Nix and DJ Durkin as his coordinator hires. It's not just like he's hiring 2 more coordinators. It's hiring 2 more coordinators and knowing where you've been in the last year, and that he has a year at Auburn under his belt. Obviously with Derek Nix, he worked with him at Ole Miss, is very familiar with him. And so that has to feel good. I think we talked a lot about that when Derek Nix was hired. it is important to get guys that you trust to do the things you want to do on the field, but also set the culture you want inside the locker room, inside the facility, and all other aspects. So I think that's probably what he means by that. But all those things are good things. I think all those things will help translate to what you want on the field. It's certainly translating in the recruiting world, but I think that the more familiar and comfortable that team and coaching staff feels, the better set up for success they can be.
Yeah. And if you're wanting to get a more of a perspective other than just like clips and stuff, we are putting up when they become available, the press conferences, the interviews for coaches and players. Yeah.
Watch it.
Austin and I are big proponents of this, folks, whether we're talking about practice or we're talking about in the middle of game prep for a game week. These things, especially with someone like Hugh Freeze, who's sometimes to a fault very open with, and he's admitted that. Listen to these guys. This is going to be something. So you don't have to ask these questions and be part of a narrative that has mainly died off.
Hear it straight from the horse's mouth.
Straight from the horse's mouth. Peyton Thorne's starting quarterback. Get over it. Kind of thing. But it's nice to hear that continuing. And I would encourage you all to listen to these press conferences. One thing about fall practice that I think is always important to note is who is good or not good health-wise. Thankfully, from the first press conference to this point that we know of, it seems like the team's largely healthy, save for a couple of people. Tyler Scott, who is a defensive back that got hurt in the middle of summer, is still been out. That's already been announced. They didn't really necessarily address that again, but just put that of note out there. We know about Alex McPherson, who has been dealing with this gastrointestinal issue that's kept him sidelined literally for the summer. Seems to be moving in the right direction based on what coach said. And then I think it was Tyler Johnson, maybe offensive tackle. And maybe I have that wrong, but I think it was him maybe that said he had to be held out for the first two practices just for some like running and stuff like that. But he was going to be all right.
I missed that.
I think that was it. Other than that, do you know of any other injuries? Like, I'm knocking on wood right now. Are we good?
Well, yes. And I know you're not missing it. You're just because we've covered it before. Brian Battie obviously will not be with us this season. I know you're not missing that. We've discussed it.
Thank you for saving me from the people that think
I am. That's exactly why I did it.
That's what a good co-host does is fly cover. You are you know what you are? I'm the strong safety flying up that just looks like an idiot. You're the free safety catching the guy coming over the top to save
That's
you.
right.
Thank you.
I got you.
Thank you.
So obviously Brian, and we continue to think about him and have him in our prayers. But you're right. I mean, knock on all the wood you can find. But things are relatively good so far. Now look, somebody's going to get hurt and God forbid it's something very serious, but it's a physical game and you want them to be physical in practice so they're as ready for the game as you can. But so far, week after week one, it sounds like it's pretty good.
It does. So obviously, this is just the beginning of practice.
I have one more observation I want to ask you.
Drop it in.
How do you feel about the blue pants, Kyle?
I'll be honest with you, hadn't really even paid attention to them. But
I want you to take a look at them next time you see some of these pictures.
Now that you mention it, that was in the back of my mind. It's not something that I tuned in.
They're not new. Those have been around, but
I will tell you this as a uniform traditionalist, I don't like change.
Sure.
So if they want to do it in practice, have fun with it. Y'all go wild. If y'all just want to have tiger striped up and down all around uniforms, go for me. But when y'all come out in the field, it better be white pants and either the white or the blue tops, and you can have white face masks. That's it. That's
only white face mask. That's another conversation we'll have to get into. I have always been in the camp, and this is all I'll say about it, I'd prefer blue pants over orange jerseys. If those are our two
I'm there.
Drastic changes we're going, that's where I lean.
I'm there. I'm with you there. And I think a lot of people would be probably on the side of that fence with you too. There's a weird fondness for the orange jerseys, but I don't think people have thought through that yet.
But yeah, they're.
All right,
don't send me all those crazy mock-ups that y'all have out there. Unless I see it from Clint, I'm not buying it.
That's right. Just Clint and Clint alone. Final note for first week of practice, and this is more of a look forward. We are looking forward to Fan Day, which is going to be August 10th, that Saturday. They will have a practice that morning, but they will be meeting with fans where you can get an autograph. There's going to be a pep rally, I believe. Abby is likely to be there, I would assume, as well as probably some of the other fall sports, or at least cheerleaders in some regard. All of that to kind of have that Fan Day experience. It's going to be at the old complex. We plan to be there. At least I do. So please come up and say hello if you're going to be there. But that is Saturday for a full hour, I think 2 to 3. And I'm looking forward to that. I hope you guys can come out. I don't know what Austin's schedule is with 2 twins, but at least you will have one representative there to cover it and check out highlights from. But that's something to look forward to for a completion of the first full week, I guess, of fall practice.
Yeah, we've talked about it. We're going to check out the weather, see what it's going like. It's always fun event and a little more taste of the season that's on the way.
Just a taste, because this is only the first week. Still many more to come, but it is inching ever so closely, folks. The season that is complete, though, Austin, and has been for quite some time, has been baseball. And to be fair,
you have to remind us.
Listen, but we're going to talk about good things after the season.
Know.
Okay, listen. This is don't get down in your feels about how. Let's not. Okay, we have been putting off this topic for a few weeks just because we've had a lot going on. SEC media days, fall practice, Big Cat weekend. They literally have not given us a break. But we want to do our justice here at the Auburn Experience of giving you some coverage of the other programs, especially when it's warranted. And I think, especially in a year where Auburn baseball, they know it more than anybody, did not have a great year. We need to talk about the good things. And you're going to be all right. You're going to be able to make it. do we need to go to counseling about this?
I thought we were done. I'd taken it out of my head.
Hey, we ain't done yet. We ain't done yet.
With Auburn baseball of 2024, we better be done.
Well, we're
going to talk about the conclusion of some of our former Auburn baseball players.
Yes.
Their careers.
We need to celebrate these things. And I think it's a good reason to kind of pause for a second and remind everybody that this season for Major League Baseball, we have seen a ton of Auburn guys get their step up to the big leagues. What are we at, like 61 or 62 now that have made it official to the Major League?
There were a couple right there back to back that threw off the number. But you're right in there, 61, 62, 63, somewhere right in there.
And a lot of those recent ones have been under Butch Thompson. So for those of you, if you're somehow in that camp that Butch Thompson needs to have something done with him because of one bad season,
we need to have a discussion.
Let me submit this resume
alley.
to you. Yes, let me submit this resume to you. In fact, I was going to say this to the end, but I'm going to go ahead and drop it now since it's part of the conversation. 22 pitchers, 40 players drafted under Butch Thompson. Under Butch Thompson. We're not talking about total. We're talking about just under him, folks. Now, some of you are going to say that number sounds great because there's tons of baseball players that go every year. They have like 50,000 draft rounds. Sure. But that's 22 pitchers, 40 players overall that have gotten drafted. The majority of those being pitchers. So we are able to get people to the next level, to the minor leagues at the very least, but to the major leagues. And a lot of that has happened recently, especially under Butch Thompson. So let's talk about the new wave. It wasn't the most prolific MLB draft in terms of who got officially drafted as part of the current team, but we do have some future prospects to talk about and some people that got signings. So let's start with our people that got drafted. Chase Alsop in round 4, pick 127 to the Baltimore Orioles. And then Tanner Bauman in round 9, pick 271 to the Yankees. Boo.
Oh wow!
Sorry, a little biased.
Didn't know we were going to get a Yankee boo there.
The Yankees are like the Lakers. They're like or it used to be like the Avalanche or the.
They've got the money, Wings.
Like that's the stars, right? You know,
sure.
Nobody likes them except those fans. And then Will Cannon in round 12, pick 359 to the Cincinnati Reds. So those are your 3 guys: Chase Alsop, Tanner Bauman, and Will Cannon, all pitchers. I think these are probably your guys that you expected if they were going into the draft to probably get their name called.
Yeah, for sure. I was hoping to see Chase also maybe a little higher. I think he was probably projected a little higher from a lot of people. But you can't go wrong with the Orioles. They have hit on a lot of their draft, I guess, scouts is what you would say in the last few years. And so that seems like a place he can do well and hopefully get to the big leagues pretty soon. The other two had good Auburn careers, and I think that there's a lot there these organizations are hoping to get out of them once they get in a professional setting. So yeah, those three guys obviously all had really great careers at Auburn, and did their time, and we're looking forward to hopefully cheering them on to be the next 68, 69, 75th Auburn
70.
Major League player.
Let's get to 70s like this next 2 seasons. It's possible. There's still prospects out there that haven't made their debut. A lot of them under Butch Thompson. So it's not unheard of here. Orioles, Yankees, Reds. I don't have any really affinity toward those. I obviously dislike the Yankees a little bit, but
obviously,
if you are a fan of those particular ball clubs, this is something for you to watch. And to be honest, that's one of the things as someone, I'll just be honest, I think I've already said I'm a Braves fan. So I like to know that there's a possibility for an Auburn person to come up in our ranks. Burkhalter, I think, is still in the minor leagues for the Braves.
Had to have Tommy John, I think. So he set back a little bit.
Yeah, that's happened more and more. It feels like not just to Auburn people, but just in general. Maybe I just
no, you're right.
It just feels like it's happening. These guys are just throwing super fast, very difficult pitches.
Yep.
And it is wearing down.
When Burkhalter was drafted, though, it was like he's coming up quick, and so hopefully when he gets back to form, he'll be on the. We'll be talking about him as the next one.
Right. And I would say as a final note on these draftees, I had hoped maybe Will Cannon, had he had a better year, would have gotten drafted a little bit higher. But here's the thing. These guys got drafted. They're getting opportunities, and that's all that we can ask. Just get the opportunity is what we say. And then you never know what might happen. Prospects that are supposed to come to Auburn. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, all three of these I'm going to mention have either confirmed that they're coming and or have not accepted their deals, a deal with their clubs.
I double checked you today when you sent me our notes, and they all three are coming to Auburn.
Look at me actually pretending to know what I talk about.
That's right.
You saw the question mark probably back.
I did. Yeah. I immediately started Googling.
So the big one, right-handed pitcher Connor Gatwood got drafted in round 19 to the Angels. He came out very quickly.
Big one. Yeah.
That he's coming back. I have to believe. I mean, he did get drafted the 20 rounds. I said it was 1 billion rounds earlier, but 20 rounds is really what it is.
It used to be more.
It used to be more. If you get drafted that low, you probably do consider coming to college, but you still got drafted. So you just never know. But I have to think that Connor probably looked at the pitching this year and says, you know what? I probably have an opportunity to play very quickly.
Well, and like you said, if you're that low, you're looking more toward college. The MLB draft is very weird with how you can pay guys over what they're slotted to make to try and convince them a little more. I think that, in round 19 to 20 area, NIL has a lot to do with that these days. Like the playing field gets evened a little bit more. So Connor Gatwood being an Auburn Tiger is really big news, and great to hear that he's confirming that he's going to be on the Plains instead of whatever minor league place the Angels would send him to.
I know. Where would that be? I can't.
There's a million of them. Probably some podunk town.
Offensive. I almost said off like a football position. Outfielder, Demarion Terrell, round 19 to the Blue Jays. He will be coming to play at Auburn this year. And then we also have Chase Fralick, round 20 to the Padres, a catcher. Maybe the next wave after Ike Irish. Who knows?
Maybe so.
He will also apparently be coming to be a part of this future program. So we are juxtaposing this to a year where Auburn was completely gashed by prospects getting drafted and choosing to stay with the teams that drafted them. Whereas this year, at least the ones that we're particularly talking about right now, have all chosen to do that. And one at a very key position that needs to improve this year. So that at least has got to give you some hope that things are going to improve, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. The guys that you not bank on, but hope to get to campus are all coming to campus. You don't have to play the what if game. So I think that's big for Butch Thompson. I'm sure he is thrilled. I can't imagine, it's so different with any other sport because you can't go anywhere straight out of high school for now, that you would have to get a guy to commit and then still wait for the opportunity, they might not come to you. And then by then it's too late.
Right.
So to get anybody else. So it's big. I'm really excited about all three of these guys. I think all three of them are positions that can help Auburn and help Auburn quickly. So it'll be good to see them on the Plains.
And we would be remiss if we didn't give a shout out to those guys that got free agent deals, essentially, or opportunities outside of the draft. Cooper Weiss is going to go play, or he at least got an opportunity thus far to participate with the Padres. And then Christian Herbolz, another pitcher, got the opportunity to go participate with the Orioles. So a lot of Orioles, well, two of them at least.
Two Orioles and two Padres.
Wow, that's
well, I guess he's Chase Frelick isn't going to the Padres, but
but they at least drafted him. So there's a lot of American League interest in Auburn Tigers.
Look at you.
I know what do you think? I'm not a baseball
fan? I know
fan?
you do. I know you do. I'm just saying
couldn't tell you the Braves record this year, but
they're on a good trend right now. They lost today, but they're on a good trend.
This is going to turn into the Braves podcast somehow.
I'm going to need to flip my room around.
Just like start turning. If I flip that way, that's a whole nother mess that we can't make. There's very little way to correlate that to this back here.
Oh, just give us some time. I'm sure we
did.
Try.
We did do a segment about at the beginning of the summer where
that's true.
We related it back to.
Anyway, I forgot about that.
Anyway, tangent city. So there you have it. The MLB draft for Auburn, a few weeks delayed for us addressing it, but just a big congratulations to Chase, Tanner, and Will, especially after the year that they've had getting drafted, getting their opportunity. We're going to be watching you guys as you continue, and hopefully we will be celebrating whoever else comes up next, but hopefully those three guys making their way through the minors and getting that shot at the big leagues, because that is such a cool moment for all those baseball fans and people who grew up playing baseball to come through their love for Auburn to get that shot at the next big level. So we'll be watching for that in the future. That's going to do it for episode 88 here on the Auburn Experience. We appreciate you tuning in to Potpourri, to Practice Talk, and of course, somehow, some way, still baseball talk in the middle of the summer for us getting ready for football. We appreciate you tuning in. Keep up with me on X if you'd like to, at Kyle Loomis 24. Where can they keep up with you, sir?
Yeah, at Austin G. Scott, X Instagram is coming soon, folks. Thanks for joining us for episode 88, dedicated to the late, great Terry Beasley.
There it is. I was wondering if you were going to work at it, and you did it. And that is why you're a great co-host, sir. So thank you for reminding us all of the late, great Terry Beasley. With that being said, thank you so much for tuning in. Until we talk to you again. War Eagle.
War Eagle.